Hello, my name is Yarselyn Flores and I live here. Bit more specific though. I live here in Southwest Houston. Now, seeing as I've lived here for about 14 years, I've noticed a thing or two that I want to share with you. For instance, this is my neighborhood. And this little dot represents where I live. And these pale yellow dots represent all the churches that surround me. Yes, I know they are a lot. These green little stars represent all the potholes that were supposed to get fixed yet are still there the next day. My personal favorite, are these two twins. Doesn't matter what side of the road you're on, you're gonna hit them both. But if you are looking for food recommendations, I've got you. For instance, there is a taco truck right here. There is a fried chicken franchise right here. There is another fried chicken franchise right here. And there are 9 more fast food restaurants in this one intersection, just meters from each other. And how could I possibly forget the 15 other fast food restaurants found on the same strip, on the same street? Now, if you're looking for something else beyond fast food, I invite you to look at the mini-marts. Mini-marts are typically associated with a gas station or a dollar store, but nevertheless, they're still useful when you're trying to look for things like candy bars, sodas, alcohol, cigarettes, lotto tickets, water. If you do happen to find groceries here, just keep in mind that the prices might be a little bit higher than what you would find typically at your grocery store. But if you are actually looking for a grocery store, you might have to drive a little ways away to the next zip code. And why is that? Because I live in a food desert. The U.S. Department of Agriculture states that food deserts are areas where people have limited access to a variety of healthy and affordable food. In urban areas like Houston, this limit is about a mile radius. In the United States, 23.5 million people live in these low-income areas who are further than 1 mile from a supermarket. And 11.5 million of these 23.5 million people are low income themselves. Now, according to a study by Rice University, in Houston alone, there are 724,750 people who are food insecure. This accounts for about 16.6% of the entire Houston population. 16.6%, that's 4 percentage points above the national average. Now, in this map, you can see all the food deserts that are in Houston, all right? However, this map shows all the food deserts in Houston in low-income areas, all right? Furthermore, food deserts have a lot of health implications. Food desert populations have higher rates of diabetes, of obesity, cardiovascular disease, diet-related cancers, and even higher mortality rates. Additionally, the combination of a food desert plus a fast food restaurant can increase the rate of these diseases. So, what is happening in food deserts? Let's look at both sides of the equation. Let's look at the supply side and the demand side, the people and the supermarkets. So let's start with supply, the supermarkets. So I talked to y'all before about my neighborhood, and if you don't remember, here you go. Reminder that this little blue circle is where I live. Now, previously, I showed you about a 1 mile radius of where I live, but let's expand that bird's eye view to 5 miles. As you can see, more grocery stores start to pop up. Now, I, fortunately, am part of the 92% of Houstonians who have at least one vehicle in their household. Therefore, it would only take me about 13 minutes to reach those 3 supermarkets that you see up there. However, if I did not have a personal vehicle, it would take me about 1 hour and 11 minutes through a bus ride, or 1 hour and 40 minutes reaching that same cluster of supermarkets. Even so, not all supermarkets look the same, even if they're part of the same corporation or franchise. In one of these supermarkets, you will not find a produce section, a dairy section, or a meat section. The only refrigerated aisle is reserved for alcohol. All of the other 8 aisles will consist of cereals, boxed bread, sweet bread, water, soda, candy, snacks, sweet drinks, caffeine, maybe 3 little sections of canned fruit and veggies. Now, if that sounded kind of repetitive, that's because it is. Some of these categories take up to the whole row, or even a row and a half of the entire grocery store aisle. But now let's switch focus. Let's switch to another supermarket in the same plaza. Now this supermarket is stocked with produce and meat and dairy, but it sees less foot traffic than its competitor. Why is that? Well, it's due to its prices. In comparison to its competitors, it charges about 30 cents more per pound for apples and 20 cents more per pound for meat. Now, while it has low prices, they require a loyalty card to access. Now let's look to another supermarket on the other side of the freeway, y'all. This supermarket has it all. It has dairy, it has produce, it has meat. And with or without your loyalty card, you will find low prices. However, its location provides insight to this, and here's why. Found in a high-income neighborhood, in a different zip code that is beside a high-traffic area, this supermarket is catering to its surrounding demographic. I don't mean this negatively, just through an objective point of view. Now, as I talk about these 3 stores, I realize that I'm talking about my own neighborhood, that I've been here for the past 14 years. So let's look beyond my neighborhood, and let's look at Houston, a map of Houston. So as you can see here, this is a map of Houston divided by zip codes and divided by income area. Now this map was provided by the American Community Survey, and as you can see, the lighter the area, the higher the income level, and the darker the area, the lower the income level. Now there are certain areas that you'll find and you'll notice are lighter, such as the Galleria area, the West University Place area, the Bel Air area. However, if you also notice, the east side of Houston is a lot darker than the west side of Houston. Now, do you remember that map that I showed you before? Of course you don't, which is why I will show it again. As you may notice, the majority of food deserts that are in low-income areas are on the west side of Houston, as well as the south, are on the east side of Houston, as well as the southwest side of Houston. And so, now that we have that map ingrained into our system, let's look back at this other map with zip code. Now, let's add locations of some nationwide supermarket chains. Each of these dots represents one of 5 national supermarket chains. As you can see, there is a greater concentration of these supermarket chains in this high-income area. Now, the American Journal of Preventive Medicine states that studies have found that wealthy districts have 3 times as more supermarkets as poor ones do, and that white neighborhoods contain an average of 4 times as many supermarkets as predominantly black ones do. But why? I mean, what's the reason? Well, keep in mind that supermarket corporations are just that. They're corporations. Therefore, their main priority is profit driven. Therefore, they are more likely to construct in places where there are higher concentrations of people, and these higher concentrations of people have greater spending power. All right, so now some people wonder if technology will help fill the gap, and the answer is potentially. So grocery delivery has started to see this huge and gain traction this past few years. Now, while some companies have opted to deliver their own groceries, others have partnered with third-party companies to deliver groceries for them. Therefore, I decided to download a third-party app. I decided to put in my address, and what I saw actually really surprised me. There were a lot of supermarkets that, for one, I didn't know existed, and for 2, I had never actually set foot in them. Another great thing about this app is that I could see all the different products from different stores to compare their prices. However, there is other things that you must take into consideration when you are ordering and paying for grocery delivery. One of them is that some stores have price markups. In the app, you will probably find that produce and other things are a bit more expensive than what you would find in person. Number two, some don't honor your promotions or coupons or loyalty cards in their delivery purchases. And number three, fees. There is a fee associated to getting your groceries delivered. Number one, the delivery fee. Two, a heavy fee. If you are buying 4 cans of water, 4 cases of water, they're gonna charge you more. Number three, if there's a fee under a certain amount, for instance, if you're paying for $35 less of groceries, then you'll have a fee associated. Also a service fee to pay your driver to bring your groceries. And lastly, a tip, because if you don't tip, it's very rude. So all these fees associated. Some people ask, why do it? Why pay more if you could do it yourself? And last but not least, some of these stores do not accept EBT or SNAP payments. In Houston, there are 304,542 households that are part of the SNAP program. This program aims to help low-income households pay for groceries. However, out of all the supermarkets in that third-party app, only one of them accepted EBT payments. And another thing is that the app itself does not accept EBT payments. So all those fees I was rambling about before, they won't be covered through SNAP payments. And therefore, while they can potentially serve to close that food desert gap, grocery delivery is not a direct replacement, as it's more expensive and a bit less inclusive than actually buying in person. But now we've talked about supermarkets, we've talked about grocery delivery. Let's look to the demand side of things. Let's look at consumers. A study conducted by Hunt Alcott, who is an NYU assistant professor of economics, Rebecca Diamond, who is a Stanford assistant professor of economics, and Jean-Pierre Dubé, who is a UChicago Booth School of Business marketing professor. In their study, they found 3 conclusions regarding consumer demand for healthy food and food deserts. Number 1, there is nutrition inequality. The higher your income, the higher the healthiness of your food. Number 2, when a supermarket is brought into a food desert, that doesn't necessarily mean that the people living in these food deserts will start eating healthier. While traffic will redirect to this new store, you're more likely to buy the same things that you bought in other stores. And number 3, consumer preference makes up 90% of the gap between healthy food and income. The environment that someone grows up in, the food that they grow up eating will drive the preference later on in life. As someone who has grown up surrounded by fast food and unhealthy eating, preferences do affect what I put in my shopping cart. For instance, as the only daughter to 2 parents who often work 12-hour shifts, quick and easy prep meals were basically my life. For instance, pasta was very easy to make. All I needed was less than $1, boil the water, put in seasoning, put in the pasta, wait for it to boil, take out the water, and boom, my dinner was served. So it's not too uncommon for me now, when I go shopping, to have a pasta box in my shopping cart. Now, this does not mean that people do not want to eat or be healthy. It's just more difficult to motivate someone to take an alternate route on a path that they've been going through for a significant portion of their life. Now, does that mean it's impossible? No, it's just more difficult. So what now? We've been talking about income and zip codes and grocery stores and food deserts. Yarselyn, you're telling me so much. What do I do now? And the answer is, I don't know. No one really knows. Not even the policymakers actually can provide you with a solution. And while I cannot provide you with this golden solution for food deserts, I hope I have opened your eyes a bit to the world around you. I invite you to go to the USDA website, Food Desert Map, and put in your address and see if you live in a food desert. Now, keep in mind, not everyone who lives in a food desert will feel the effects of living in one. So while you may not feel like you live in a food desert, someone in your zip code does. And the next time you go to a grocery store, observe. How long did it take you to get to that grocery store? How far away is that grocery store from where you live? Are there certain products being sold there or not being sold there that are in other supermarkets? Now, you may see something that you hadn't seen before. Thank you.